Good morning, mi gente. My name is Bernice Vargas Luna, Program Manager here at ACE, the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement, a national nonprofit whose mission is to positively impact the workplace by cultivating the pipeline of Latino talent, providing insight, access, and support so that they are successful in their career. It is so exciting to welcome you all today on this special day to our Cafecito celebrating International Women's Day. Our guest today is Ellie Nieves, and she is currently Vice President and Assistant General Counsel, Strategic Public Policy Initiatives as a Fortune 250 company. She is also the founder and president of Leadership Strategies for Women, LLC, where she facilitates leadership development programs for women and helps companies develop more diverse, equitable, and inclusive workplaces that foster a culture of belonging. She obtained her BA in Communications from Fordham University, a JD from Elizabeth Hub School of Law at Pace University, and also earned her MBA from NYU Stern School of Business with specializations in leadership and global business. Ellie, welcome. I just wanted to get that all out there to present you so people understand who we have in the room with us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Bernice. It's great to be here with you.
Thank you so much. And Ellie Nieves is also a program lead for our Mujeres de HACE program and facilitates several our professional development workshops. So she's very involved with the organization and specifically in the D&I space. But before we get started, few announcements. For ACE, we have the National Leadership Summit taking place April 20th through the 21st in Chicago. So make sure you visit our website, aceonline.org. Go to the events section so you can see the options. We're going to have virtual and in-person options available. During the in-person, we're going to have our Mujeres de HACE 15-year quince anniversary on Friday, April 21st. We're going to be celebrating that with a panel presentation and also recognizing women alums of the program that continue to impact their community with our Mujer Maravilla nominations and awards. So be sure you go to our website, find out information so that you can nominate the Mujer de HACE. You can nominate yourself or nominate others that you know that continue to make a difference in the world around them. And then lastly, today we have a Embrace Equity, Empowering Women in the Workplace session hosted by the Chicago Ox Board. It's going to be virtual today at 12:30. Again, go to our website to find out more information. All right, thank you so much for listening to all of that. We hope you connect with us. Ellie, let us know, how do you start off with your cafecito in the morning? What is your beverage of choice?
Well, don't hate me. I'm not a coffee drinker. I've never had coffee, but I am a tea drinker, and I like herbal teas. I like green tea. I like lemon tea.
That's okay. That's okay. I am the cafetera in my family. I will drink coffee all day, which is not the best. And so what I'm trying to be mindful of is have a little bit of my cafecito, which I like with a bit of creamer, although my favorite is café de olla. But I'm trying to have some coffee and after a cup of coffee, water. Coffee, water,
Buen
coffee, water.
provecho, buen provecho.
So hopefully wish me luck on that endeavor. We'll see how that goes. So to start us off, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your cultural and professional identity. Introduce yourself to the ACE community.
Absolutely. So I am a New Yorican, which means I am a Puerto Riqueña who was born and raised in New York City, specifically in the South Bronx, which happens to be the poorest congressional district in all of the U.S. But I learned very early how important it was to participate in my community through community empowerment and activism. My mother was a community activist, and she worked on a number of programs, including the War Against Poverty. And she ended up working for a legislator. So I grew up running the halls of the Capitol as I was growing up in New York State. And that, of course, piqued an interest in me at a very early age in politics. I ended up going to college. I majored in communications, where I found my voice in terms of being an advocate for community empowerment, and then went on to law school, where I majored in or focused on civil rights law and voting rights cases, and then decided that I wanted to go into politics, perhaps with the goal of running for office myself when I got out of law school. And when I arrived, I realized that I was one of the very few women that was sitting at the table in politics. At the time, it was very male dominated, particularly in New York City. And I found myself sitting at the table with mostly men, having to find my voice, having to find and create space for myself. And as I started to do that, a number of other young women would come to me and ask me if I could help them to also find their voices and to create space for themselves. And I found myself doing a lot of mentoring. And that was about the time when coaching started to become a thing. And I decided that perhaps I could take this mentoring to another level by getting certified as a coach. And I've focused on helping women to get ahead in their careers and, again, create space for themselves and find their voices as they try to climb up the corporate ladder.
What an amazing story. I love that you had interest in the political and social issues. We need more representation, more of us in those spaces to bring that voice to that table. And so it's just wonderful that you were able to get into those spaces and that you're able to provide that mentorship, which is something that we so need in our community, and especially for the mujeres. We have voices, but sometimes we just don't know how to use them. And so when we find programs and mentors like yourself, programs like the Mujeres de HACE, organizations like HACE, that provide that ability to identify and find your authenticity so that you can be out there and be yourself and make that impact that you're supposed to do in the world. So it's just so exciting. Again, we're celebrating Women's History Month. Today is International Women's Day, the global recognition for women's achievements throughout the world. And at the end of this month, we're going to kick off our spring cohort of Mujeres de HACE. And you are going to be one of our program leads for the program coming back. I haven't kept counted how many you've done for us that you facilitated, but welcome back
Thank
to
you.
this year. As you lead the program in the past, you have helped empower our participants in the program. What have been some of the memorable moments or experiences that you've had during that process?
I think one of the most impactful and memorable moments is continually, because this happens every time we have one of these cohorts, is when the women get to take the insights assessment, which is very early on in the program. And when I started serving as a program lead, I myself took the insights assessment because I wanted to make sure that I understood what the participants were experiencing. One, it was eye-opening for me personally as a woman who's still working on my own career in corporate America, but then also to see how the light bulbs start to go off for all of the participants when they see the results of the insights assessment. And then that becomes part of the foundation of the rest of the program, being able to reflect on what you learned in the insights about your leadership style, about what your strengths are, about how you can identify other individuals that you work with and their work styles, and how you can learn to flex so that you can be better in your leadership journey. And then the other thing too is how the Mujeres de HACE program is really grounded in your Latinidad, understanding how your Latinidad actually plays a role in your leadership style, in how you view the world, in how you interact with others around you in the workplace, and how sometimes as Latinos and Latinas, when we show up as a Latinx community in the workplace, we often hold back on our cultural identity in order to succeed in corporate spaces. And we may not talk about it openly because sometimes we're part of the few in a particular space. And we don't always see others who also share this experience with us in the workplace. But when you show up at the Mujeres de HACE program, you have an hermandad, other women, other sisters who are going through the same thing that you are. And they might not be speaking to others, but now you finally have a place to share your common experiences and even attach some language to it. Sometimes we go through, we live in these different spaces and we have these experiences, and somewhere in the back of our mind, we know that there's something different about how we're interacting or how we're navigating the corporate spaces that we work in, but we don't have the language for it. So Mujeres de HACE actually provides us with that on-ramp and that language that we can, share commonly with each other. And then it helps us to understand that we're not the only ones navigating in these spaces. And you feel empowered, right? So that the next day after you've had a session with your sisters, with your hermanas, and you go back into the office, you have a little bit more of a pep in your step, right? You have a better sense of confidence. You have a better understanding of what your language is versus the corporate language, and how you can really use your Latinidad as a strength and not see it as something that you have to hold back on in order to succeed.
Thank you so much for reminding us of the important tool that you get as part of the program, which is the Insights Discovery Assessment, and it helps you identify your leadership style. And once you identify that, then you're able to develop that awareness about yourself and then of others. And I use my assessment every day in my interactions with others, and including in my personal life. You know, I could tell you, you know, I've labeled, you know, my family in different categories based on that, and that's how I use to communicate with them. And it's tools that you learn and that help you thrive personally, professionally, right? And so it's and like you said, it's actionable that you take into the workplace every day. I before I came to work with ASE, I was a participant, and that was actually my first introduction and interaction with ASE, even though ASE has been around for 40 years. And so when I went through the program, like you said, I'm sitting in a virtual room, hearing the same experiences that I'm feeling. And a lot of times it would almost bring me to tears because you get very emotional. You're breaking down these barriers, and you're thinking, you know what? No, I can't speak up during this meeting. Yes, I need to represent myself. And then bringing that with your Latinidad, that's the other part of it that I never really paid attention to. I grew up in a just a very corporate environment, and so I never really paid much attention to my Chicana identity until way after. And so all these things that come together during the program are just amazing, and create that transformation that you take with you after the program. And so that's why we're so excited about doing this for Women's History Month, doing the Mujer Maravilla award, because that's really us recognizing those that gone through the program and that continue to impact their community. So thank you so much for that, and for bringing up the corporate and cultural values. That's a huge portion of it as well that we see in
Absolutely.
this program.
Absolutely.
Ellie, tell us about, and as we feel free to drop some questions in the chat for Ellie as we go through. But what is the wisdom you want to share with the audience that help make you make history in your own life as you through all the transitions that you had and all those experiences? What's wisdom that you want to share?
So, the wisdom I want to share has to do with a mantra that I've developed for myself, and it's actually at the heart of my coaching, which is show up, speak up, and step up. You know, one of the lessons that I learned very early on in my career was that I needed to show up. I needed to increase my visibility. I needed to be seen. I needed to take up space in order to be acknowledged as a leader. So I like to encourage other women who are looking to get ahead in their careers to do exactly that. Make sure that you're always increasing your visibility. You have to be seen so that people understand that you're at the table. So create that space for yourself at the table. And when you're at the table, it's not enough to just show up. You also have to speak up. You have to find your voice. You have to contribute to the discourse. You have to make meaningful contributions to make sure that a project, a meeting, that these that important discussions that are occurring in your environment, that you're making a significant contribution to it. And you know, a lot of us think that meetings are very tedious throughout the day, and sometimes we think that they're a waste of time. But the reality is that meetings really are spaces for you to start to define your leadership. It's when you show up and you add something to the agenda, that you ask insightful questions, that you can start speaking up, that you can start making meaningful contributions to projects that are occurring. So really think about meetings as opportunities to speak up and a way to enhance your leadership style and to really make significant contributions moving forward. And you know, step up. Step up is all about being excellent where you are first. Before we start raising our hands for other projects, we need to make sure that we're excellent at what we are meant to do, what we show up to work to do. So make sure that you are not only just checking off all the boxes in your job description, but that you're being excellent and that you develop a reputation for being excellent and for delivering on your promise, your value proposition. And once you develop that kind of a reputation, then start raising your hand for additional projects. Start looking around for gaps, opportunities, places where help is needed, where there's an opportunity for you to actually step in and even create roles for yourself. Frankly, my most career defining moments have been times when I've raised my hand because I've identified some sort of a gap and I stepped in to fill the gap. So I encourage you to do that. But again, the foundation for being able to step in and fill a gap is to first make sure that you excel at your current role. So just think about, your future as you move forward. Always think about showing up, speaking up, and stepping up. And then the next thing that I'll just leave you with is don't let your career define you. You define your career. A lot of the times, we find confidence in the work that we do, and we should. When we do a good job, it should boost your confidence, but it shouldn't get to the point where now, if you step away from a particular role, that now you lose your sense of self. That should never be the case. You should always have a strong sense of self first, and then you now define the role that you're in by putting your best foot forward, coming up with creative ideas, creating new avenues of opportunity, not only for yourself, but for others in the role. And again, you define the role, don't let the role define you.
Thank you, Ellie. That is one to touch on your first point is not being afraid to speak up, right? And so, like you said, and I think when you align yourself with the things that you're passionate about, then you lose that fear of speaking up. So really align yourself to organizations, to volunteer opportunities, whatever that is, your hobby or your passion. Make sure it aligns with your core values, because then you're going to love doing it. Then you won't have a hard time speaking up when you see injustice, right? That will be part of your passion, and that's what keeps us moving. Um, there is a question in the chat that we had from Lisandra Jimenez, our program manager with ACE. Her question is for Ellie: what advice would you give to women who would like to continue to advance in their career but are afraid of being derailed due to starting a family?
This is a very common question. It's a common consideration for all women. And I always think back to a story that was shared not too long ago by a famous woman leader. And she talked about how she was mentoring a particular woman at her employment, and how the woman had a timeline of everything that she wanted to accomplish. And of course, in the timeline was when she was going to fall in love, when she was going to get married, and when she was going to have a child. Yet at that moment in time, she still didn't have a boyfriend. Right? These are like really important considerations for us though as women, right? We think about family. We want family, especially when you're Hispanic, Latino, Latina. It's an important thing is to have family. I would urge you to not think that you need to choose between one or the other. Don't ever feel like you have to choose between one or the other. You stay on track with your career, make the decision when that time comes. But don't stop your career because you want to plan a family. Just keep moving forward. And when you get to that point in time, you will make your decision then. Simply because uh, you hope that you will find mentors and sponsors along the way that will continue to help you shape your career outcomes. And when you find those types of partners, then these life events also don't always get in the way. And as you maneuver your own career, you don't want to create any roadblocks for yourself either. So don't stop plowing forward unless you've done some internal soul searching outside of the family planning piece and you've decided that you want your career to go in another direction. I would just urge you, keep plowing forward. And when you get to that point in time, then you make the decision.
Thank you, Ellie. And we do have a comment in the chat. Just recognizing you, Ellie was my program lead for Mujeres de HACE. Grateful for her insight and passion for empowering women. So again, thank you so much, Ellie, for joining us today. We have one more question because we are talking about family and Women's History Month. It's like you said, it's something that touches us culturally and individually. What are some tips to optimize that work-life integration?
So I'll go back to the statement that I made about not allowing work to define you. but you define the work. Because I think that the work-life integration starts first with a mindset. You have to start with the mindset of understanding that there needs to be a balance somewhere, and that we go through seasons as well. You know, at work, there are seasons where you are super busy, and then there are seasons when things slow down a little bit. And, you know, we have to be prepared for those ebbs and flows. Now, if you're in a situation where you're constantly on the go and you never have that valley, you know, you're always on peaks, then I think there needs to be some serious reassessment about what's going on, you know, either in the workplace or if there needs to be additional balance in your life. But one of the things that I like to do on a regular basis, and I'll say I do this quarterly, is I go back and I look at my calendar and I reassess my commitments. And you know, in the beginning of the year, I always go through my process about what are my priorities and what do I want my year to look like. And that's what I measure my commitments against. You know, did I take on more than I anticipated? Do I know what my personal limitations are? You know, we need to know what our personal limitations are. You know, I've realized that I need a good night's sleep, right? So I'm not going to break night to try to get work done. If anything, I want to make sure I get a good night's sleep. I get enough rest. Then I wake up in the morning when I have cleared my mind, and I can attack a problem, a project, in a more clear-minded way. There are some times, you know, when I've got so much to do at work that I might have to carve out one day out of a weekend to just focus and have some quiet time to get everything, you know, sorted out. But am I doing that on a regular basis? Right? We need to ask ourselves what the balance question is, and we need to constantly go back and do some reassessing and be prepared to, you know, knock some things off the calendar and be prepared to say no to some things that aren't serving us, are not helping us or are not helping us move closer to our goals.
Thank you for that reflection, right? I think reflection is an important part of moving forward and growing. And I think personally for myself, I don't do a good job of going back and looking at it, as you said, and really looking at appointments and your investment of time and see if that's aligning, like you said, to what you want to accomplish, what's your priority. So amazing. Thank you so much for that tip. Let's end it on a positive note. What are you looking forward to this year?
So this year, I'm just looking forward to health, time with family and friends. I am spending a little bit more time in Florida. I'm, you know, spending time in New York and Florida. My husband and I recently built a home in Florida. So, you know, being able to spend some nice time with family in warm weather is a great thing. And that's what I'm looking forward to in the new year.
Thank you. Same here. Looking forward to connecting with family. I think we're all still shaking off the pandemic and you know, being enclosed for such a long time. So everybody's getting out and doing all of that. So thank you so much for joining us. Again, go to aseonline.org to find out more information about our programs, about our events, upcoming opportunities to continue expanding your network and joining the over 97,000 members that we already have in our community. So again, aseonline.org. Thank you so much, Ellie, for joining us today. I can't wait to see you March 29th to kick off Mujeres de HACE. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.